When 3:10 to Yuma returned to the big screen, audiences were treated to a Western that felt both timeless and fresh. Behind the dusty streets and tense standoffs were untold stories of passion, creative risks, and surprising challenges that shaped the film. From unexpected casting possibilities and haunting musical choices to behind-the-scenes accidents and hidden symbolism, every detail added new weight to this gripping remake. In this video, we'll uncover 25 secrets about 3:10 to Yuma that reveal why it stands apart as one of the most memorable Westerns of the modern era. Number 1. Mangold's lifelong inspiration. A teenage discovery would shape a director's career decades later. James Mangold first watched the 1957 version of 3:10 to Yuma when he was only 17, and the story never left him. Its themes of honor, sacrifice, and the tension between law and lawlessness struck a deep chord, planting the seed for what would become one of his most personal projects. Years later, when Mangold had the chance to direct a remake, he didn't approach it as just another studio job. He saw it as a chance to revisit a story that had defined his love for cinema and reinterpret it for a modern audience. His vision wasn't about nostalgia, but about bringing the emotional weight he felt as a teenager back to life for others to experience. That early connection shaped everything, from the gritty tone to the way he pushed his cast and crew to treat the Western with reverence. What began as a quiet inspiration in a young man's heart became the driving force behind one of the boldest genre revivals in years. Number 2. Not a cynical remake. Audiences in the mid-2000s had grown wary of constant reboots and remakes, many of which felt like hollow attempts to cash in on familiar titles. With 3:10 to Yuma, James Mangold was determined to avoid that trap. His approach wasn't about recycling nostalgia or banking on a recognizable brand. Instead, he wanted to build a Western that carried the heart of the original while standing proudly on its own. The choice made the project unique in Hollywood at the time. The 1957 version was respected, but it wasn't a heavily merchandised cultural giant. That gave Mangold freedom to reimagine the material without being buried under expectations. Rather than simply copying, he dug into Elmore Leonard's story and explored themes that would resonate with a modern audience: honor, duty, and the personal cost of doing what's right. By focusing on character depth and moral conflict instead of spectacle, Mangold created something rare, a remake that felt essential rather than opportunistic. His goal was never to replace the original, but to show how timeless stories can find new life for a new generation. Number 3. Almost starred Tom Cruise or Eric Bana. The casting process for 3:10 to Yuma could have led to a very different film. Before Russell Crowe and Christian Bale were locked in as the leads, Hollywood had its eye on other big names. Among them were Tom Cruise, who was one of the industry's most bankable stars at the time, and Eric Bana, who had recently gained attention for his dramatic intensity. It's fascinating to imagine how their presence might have shifted the movie's tone. Cruise's charisma could have made Ben Wade feel smoother and more heroic, while Bana's brooding energy might have brought a darker edge. But fate took the story in another direction, and Mangold ultimately secured Crowe and Bale, a pairing that delivered the perfect mix of menace and determination. Looking back, it's hard to picture anyone else in those roles. Crowe brought gravitas and unpredictability to Wade, while Bale grounded the story with quiet desperation as Dan Evans. Their chemistry became the heartbeat of the movie, proving that the final casting decisions were exactly what the story needed. Number 4. Final cut secured despite doubts. At a time when Westerns were considered risky at the box office, securing creative freedom for a project like 3:10 to Yuma was no easy task. Studios were hesitant, worried that audiences wouldn't turn out for a genre that had largely faded from mainstream success. Many directors in Mangold's position would have been forced to compromise to get financing. But Mangold stood firm. He negotiated for final cut rights, ensuring that his vision would reach audiences without interference. This meant he had the last word on editing, tone, and pacing, a rare privilege in Hollywood, especially for a Western remake. By securing independent backing along with the support of his stars, he gained leverage most filmmakers only dream of. That decision shaped the entire movie. From its unflinching pace to its morally complex characters, Mangold's imprint is everywhere. Without his creative control, 3:10 to Yuma might have been softened into something safer and more conventional. Instead, it emerged as a bold, character-driven story that proved the Western still had power in the modern era. Number 5. Batman's Cave reused. One of the most striking night sequences in 3:10 to Yuma was filmed in a location with an unexpected history. The scene where Dan Evans and the others are ambushed in a dark cave wasn't shot in New Mexico, like most of the film, but in Los Angeles. The reason was practical. Weather in New Mexico had turned so cold that production had to relocate. The chosen cave wasn't just any location, it was the same cave used decades earlier for the Batman television series, serving as the famous entrance to the Batcave. For sharp-eyed viewers familiar with pop culture history, this small detail makes the moment even more fascinating. Though viewers see only shadow and tension in the finished scene, the production's choice reveals how even a gritty Western can intersect with unexpected parts of Hollywood history. By repurposing a location with such a playful legacy, Mangold's team added a hidden layer of trivia that connects 3:10 to Yuma to an entirely different genre. Number 6. Tragic on-set accident. The very first day of filming set a somber tone for the production. During a sequence involving galloping horses, one rider lost control and collided with a camera truck. The impact left the rider injured badly enough to require hospitalization. Sadly, the horse involved in the accident was hurt beyond recovery and had to be put down. The American Humane Association, which monitors animal safety in film, immediately reviewed the incident. After their investigation, they determined that the production had followed safety guidelines and that the event was an unfortunate accident rather than negligence. While the film went on to be completed without further issues, the incident weighed heavily on the cast and crew. This early challenge reminded everyone of the physical risks involved in bringing a Western to life. Horses, stunts, and high-speed action are cornerstones of the genre, but they also come with unavoidable dangers. For Mangold and his team, it underscored the responsibility of balancing authenticity with safety on set. Number 7. Bisbee vs. Contention City. Creating two distinct towns was crucial for the story's journey. The film's production team transformed Bonanza Creek Ranch in New Mexico into Bisbee, the humble frontier town where Dan Evans lives. Its quiet, rural atmosphere reflected Dan's modest life as a struggling rancher trying to support his family. In sharp contrast, the nearby town of Galisteo was reimagined as Contention City, a gritty place filled with gambling halls, saloons, and hidden danger. This setting became the backdrop for some of the film's most tense and chaotic moments. Every detail, from crooked wooden storefronts to muddy streets, emphasized the lawlessness that awaited Dan and the posse as they moved closer to the train station. By crafting these environments with such care, the filmmakers gave the audience more than just scenery. The towns became living reflections of the story itself, Bisbee symbolizing home and obligation, while Contention embodied temptation, violence, and the harsh realities of survival in the Old West. Number 8. Set legacy left behind. Not all movie sets disappear once the cameras stop rolling. For 3:10 to Yuma, much of what was built remained standing long after production wrapped. Nearly 3/4 of the elaborate structures created at Cerro Pelon Ranch in New Mexico were left intact, turning what had been a temporary frontier town into a lasting landmark. The decision wasn't accidental. Local officials approved the plan to keep the buildings, seeing their potential for tourism and future productions. With an expansion that cost around $2 million, the film's sets became more than props. They became a permanent fixture that other filmmakers and visitors could enjoy. For fans of the Western genre, this left behind a tangible connection to the movie. The dusty streets and weathered storefronts built for Dan Evans' story didn't just vanish into memory. They lived on as part of New Mexico's film history, offering a reminder that even a Hollywood production can leave real footprints on the land where it was created. Number 9. Oscar buzz for sound and score. Recognition from the Academy can cement a film's legacy, and 3:10 to Yuma earned that honor with 2 nominations. The movie was celebrated for its remarkable sound mixing, which captured the clash of gunfire, the pounding of hooves, and the tense, quiet moments that defined its atmosphere. Equally impressive was Marco Beltrami's original score, which earned a nomination for Best Original Score. Known for his versatility, Beltrami blended traditional Western tones with unexpected sounds that gave the film a fresh musical identity. The result was a soundtrack that felt both authentic to the genre and daringly modern. Though the film didn't take home a statue, the nominations themselves showed how much artistry went into crafting its world. For a genre that Hollywood often considered outdated, this recognition was proof that Westerns could still achieve excellence worthy of awards. It highlighted the care and creativity behind every sound and note woven into the film. Number 10. Strategic release timing. Timing can mean everything at the box office, and the release of 3:10 to Yuma was carefully planned. Originally scheduled for October 5, 2007, the film's debut was moved up nearly a month earlier to September 7th. This change positioned it ahead of a crowded fall season, filled with festival releases and other competing films. The earlier slot gave the movie breathing room to capture attention before audiences were distracted by the year's award contenders. It also allowed the film to stand apart from other Western-themed projects that were on the horizon. This strategy proved wise, helping the movie secure visibility and draw in audiences who might otherwise have overlooked it. By moving ahead of the competition, the film gained an advantage that complemented its strong performances and gripping story. Strategic release timing may not sound glamorous, but in Hollywood, the calendar can be just as important as the talent on screen. Number 11. Budget versus box office. Bringing a Western to life on the scale of 3:10 to Yuma required a substantial investment. The production budget landed between $48 and $55 million, covering everything from building entire frontier towns to handling large action sequences with horses, trains, and stunts. For a genre that wasn't a guaranteed draw in the 2000s, this was a considerable risk. When the film hit theaters, it earned about $71 million worldwide. While not a runaway blockbuster, the performance was respectable and ensured the project avoided the financial struggles that often plagued Westerns. The movie also found a longer life on home release, where strong word of mouth continued to bring in viewers. Measured purely by profit, the film's return was modest. But in terms of cultural impact and critical respect, the investment proved worthwhile. It demonstrated that a carefully crafted Western could still hold an audience, even in a market dominated by action spectacles and modern franchises. Number 12. Beltrami's unusual instrumentation. Music plays a silent but powerful role in shaping the mood of a film, and Marco Beltrami gave 3:10 to Yuma a sound unlike any other Western. Instead of relying only on traditional instruments, he experimented with textures that set the score apart. Alongside banjos, fiddles, and pump organs, he introduced unexpected elements such as processed jaw harps and even the ticking of a grandfather clock. These choices created an atmosphere that was both familiar and unsettling. The banjo and harmonica rooted the sound in Western tradition, while the unusual tones added tension, echoing the unpredictable nature of Ben Wade and the dangers lurking at every turn. Beltrami wanted the music to feel alive, almost as if the land itself was humming with unease. The result was a score that didn't just underscore the story, but became part of it. Each odd instrument helped weave suspense and emotion, ensuring that audiences not only watched the journey to the train, but also felt its weight in every note. Number 13. 3 musical themes. A good score doesn't just set the mood, it tells its own story. Marco Beltrami carefully crafted 3 distinct musical themes for 3:10 to Yuma, each tied to a central character. Dan Evans's theme carried a somber, almost weary tone, reflecting his struggles as a rancher burdened with debt and responsibility. In contrast, Ben Wade's theme was more refined and mysterious, echoing his charisma and unpredictable nature. It conveyed the outlaw's charm, but also hinted at the danger that always followed him. Then there was Charlie Prince, Wade's fiercely loyal right-hand man, whose theme pulsed with aggression and menace, mirroring his devotion and volatility. What made these themes so powerful was the way Beltrami wove them together. As the film reached its tense climax, the 3 musical threads collided, just as the characters did. The music mirrored the story's moral conflict, turning the score into an invisible but vital storyteller in its own right. Number 14. Wade's moral code. What made Ben Wade more than just another Western outlaw was the depth of his personal code. Beneath his ruthless reputation was a man who valued loyalty and punished betrayal. He could be charming and intelligent, quoting the Bible one moment and striking down an untrustworthy ally the next. To Wade, principles mattered, even if they weren't the same ones followed by the law. This complexity set him apart from one-dimensional villains. Instead of pure cruelty, Wade's actions revealed a strange sense of fairness. He admired strength in others, and he tested Dan Evans repeatedly to see if the rancher truly lived by his own ideals. These interactions weren't about cruelty, but about probing whether Evans's integrity could withstand pressure. By the end, Wade's moral compass helped explain his surprising choices. He was dangerous, yes, but also bound by his own rules, making him as fascinating as he was unpredictable. It's this balance of menace and honor that made Crowe's performance unforgettable. Number 15. Biblical symbolism. The character of Ben Wade carried more than charm and danger. He was layered with spiritual undertones. Throughout 3:10 to Yuma, Wade is seen quoting the Bible and handling it with a kind of respect that surprises those around him. For many viewers, these moments suggested that his inner struggles weren't just about law versus crime, but about morality and redemption. One interpretation casts Dan Evans as a Christ-like figure in Wade's eyes. Dan's willingness to sacrifice everything for his family and his sense of duty resonates with the values Wade secretly admires. This makes their relationship more than a clash between rancher and outlaw. It becomes a study of faith, sacrifice, and the power of conviction. The biblical echoes gave the story an unexpected depth. They allowed audiences to see Wade not only as a feared outlaw, but as a man wrestling with the idea of good and evil. That layer of symbolism is part of what makes the film resonate beyond its gunfights and train ride. Number 16. Continuity and prop mistakes. Even carefully made films aren't immune to small errors, and 3:10 to Yuma has a few that sharp-eyed viewers noticed. One of the most frequently mentioned involves the train itself. Though the movie is set shortly after the Civil War, the cars were shown with automatic couplers that weren't invented until later. For audiences who know their railway history, the detail stands out. Other minor slips appear in lighting and continuity. In some scenes, the position of shadows or the angle of sunlight shifts more quickly than it naturally should, suggesting that shots were filmed at different times of day. Small editing inconsistencies like these don't take away from the story, but they do remind us of the challenges filmmakers face when shooting long, complicated sequences outdoors. While these details may only be caught by eagle-eyed viewers, they add another layer of trivia to the film. It shows that even a polished production can have little quirks that fans enjoy uncovering. Number 17. Based on Leonard's short story. Long before 3:10 to Yuma became a pair of Hollywood films, it began as a short story by celebrated writer Elmore Leonard. Published in 1953, 3:10 to Yuma captured the tense journey of an ordinary man escorting a dangerous outlaw to a train bound for justice. Its tight, suspenseful narrative became a perfect foundation for filmmakers looking to explore morality and courage under pressure. The first adaptation came in 1957, a black-and-white classic that many consider one of the finest westerns of its time. 50 years later, Mangold revisited the material, not to erase the original, but to expand on Leonard's themes with more grit and psychological depth. The 2007 version borrowed the essence of Leonard's story, but gave it broader scope, richer characters, and a modern cinematic style. By tracing the film back to Leonard's pen, audiences can see how timeless his storytelling was. His ability to weave tension, moral conflict, and human weakness is why his work continues to inspire filmmakers decades later. Number 18. Rich supporting cast. While Russell Crowe and Christian Bale carried the film's central conflict, 3:10 to Yuma also benefited from a strong supporting ensemble. Peter Fonda stood out as the grizzled bounty hunter Byron McElroy, bringing both toughness and vulnerability to a role that could have been one note in lesser hands. His presence added grit and gravitas to the posse. Ben Foster delivered a chilling performance as Charlie Prince, Wade's fiercely loyal second-in-command. His intensity made the character unpredictable and dangerous, a constant threat lurking in the shadows. Gretchen Mol brought heart and humanity as Alice Evans, grounding the story in the sacrifices of family life, while Alan Tudyk added warmth and subtle humor as the town doctor caught in the chaos. Even Logan Lerman, playing Dan's son William, gave the film emotional weight by portraying a boy torn between admiration for Wade's charisma and respect for his father's integrity. Together, this supporting cast turned the film into more than just a duel between two men. They fleshed out a world full of complexity and consequence. Number 19. Modern Western sensibility. When 3:10 to Yuma arrived, the Western genre had been considered past its prime for years. Many earlier attempts to revive it leaned heavily on nostalgia, recreating the style of classic films without much innovation. James Mangold took a different path. He wanted the movie to feel authentic to its period, yet infused with the urgency and intensity of modern filmmaking. The result was a Western that carried the grit and moral complexity of contemporary dramas. Violence wasn't glamorous, but harsh and consequential. Characters weren't painted in black and white terms, but layered with conflicting motives and vulnerabilities. At the same time, Mangold preserved the hallmarks of the genre: wide desert vistas, tense standoffs, and the ever-present clash between civilization and lawlessness. Critics praised this balance. The film felt like a genuine Western, but also something new, proof that the genre could still resonate with 21st century audiences. It was a reminder that stories of honor, sacrifice, and survival never truly go out of style. Number 20. Character contrast. At the heart of the movie lies the powerful clash between two very different men. Dan Evans, a struggling rancher, is weighed down by debt, drought, and a desperate need to provide for his family. Across from him stands Ben Wade, a charismatic outlaw who thrives on confidence, intelligence, and power. Their opposing worlds create the central tension of the film. What makes the story compelling is how these differences gradually give way to a complex bond. Evans's quiet determination earns Wade's respect, even as the outlaw repeatedly tempts him to abandon his principles. For Evans, Wade represents danger, but also a test of character, forcing him to prove to himself and to his son that honor matters more than comfort. This contrast is what elevates the film from a simple tale of good versus bad. By the time they reach the train, audiences see not just a duel between enemies, but a reluctant understanding forged between two men who recognize strength in each other. Number 21. Symbolism of Wade's whistle. The film's closing moments are unforgettable, not only for the suspense, but for the quiet gesture that lingers afterward. As Ben Wade boards the train, he softly whistles for his horse, and the loyal animal follows alongside the departing cars. To some, it's just a small character detail, but to many viewers, it carries symbolic weight. The whistle suggests freedom. Wade is an outlaw who can never truly be caged, no matter the bars or guards. It also hints at remorse, as his choice to help Dan Evans complete the mission shows a side of Wade driven by respect and perhaps even admiration. The horse following the train becomes an image of loyalty and connection, contrasting with the violence Wade has lived by. This subtle moment gave the film an ending that resonated beyond its shootouts. It left audiences debating Wade's true intentions, questioning whether he had been changed by Evans's sacrifice. The whistle became a haunting reminder that even the most hardened men can reveal unexpected humanity. Number 22. A risky genre revived. By the early 2000s, Hollywood wasn't eager to invest in Westerns. Studios saw them as financial gambles, with only a handful finding success in recent decades. Against this backdrop, 3:10 to Yuma stood out as a bold project. It wasn't based on superheroes or large franchises. It was a character-driven Western in an era dominated by blockbusters. The gamble paid off. While not a record-breaking hit, the film earned critical acclaim, award nominations, and enough box office returns to prove the genre wasn't entirely out of favor. More importantly, it showed that audiences were still drawn to stories of grit, honor, and sacrifice when told with energy and care. This success didn't trigger a flood of Westerns, but it did open the door for a few more projects in the years that followed. For many, 3:10 to Yuma became proof that even in a modern industry-chasing spectacle, there was still room for dusty trails, tense standoffs, and moral drama on the frontier. Number 23. Crowe and Bale chemistry. The heart of the film rests not just on its story, but on the dynamic between its two leads. Russell Crowe and Christian Bale approached their roles with very different energies that complemented one another perfectly. Crowe gave Ben Wade a mixture of charm and menace, a man who could disarm with a smile, but whose eyes always hinted at danger. Bale, in contrast, embodied quiet determination as Dan Evans. His performance wasn't showy, but carried the weight of a man fighting for dignity in the face of hardship. The contrast between Crowe's magnetic presence and Bale's grounded intensity became the emotional engine of the film. On screen, the chemistry was undeniable. their exchanges crackled with tension, and their eventual mutual respect felt earned rather than forced. Many critics noted that, without this pairing, the movie wouldn't have had the same impact. Together, Crowe and Bale turned a classic story into something deeply human and unforgettable. Number 24. Screenplay evolution. The script for 3:10 to Yuma had a long journey before reaching the screen in 2007. The foundation came from Halstead Wells, who had penned the screenplay for the 1957 adaptation. His work remained an important reference point, but director James Mangold wanted a version that spoke to modern audiences with greater intensity and psychological depth. Writers Michael Brandt and Derek Haas were brought in to reshape the material. Known for crafting sharp dialogue and layered tension, they expanded on Elmore Leonard's original short story while preserving its essence. The new draft deepened character motivations, added complexity to the moral dilemmas, and gave the final act more grit and urgency. This blending of old and new created a script that honored tradition while breaking new ground. The result was a screenplay that felt timeless yet contemporary, offering audiences a version of 3:10 to Yuma that captured both the spirit of the 1950s classic and the raw intensity of modern cinema. Number 25. Cinematography with grit. The look of 3:10 to Yuma played a huge role in making the story feel both authentic and cinematic. Director of photography Pheidon Papamichael captured the harsh beauty of the Arizona-like landscapes with wide, sweeping shots that reminded audiences of the genre's golden age. At the same time, he used close, intimate framing to highlight the tension between characters in their quietest and most dangerous moments. The dusty color palette gave every scene a weathered quality, immersing viewers in a world that felt lived in rather than polished. Even the way light filtered through saloon windows or bounced off the desert terrain reinforced the atmosphere of struggle and survival. Papamichael's work balanced scale and intimacy, giving the film a visual rhythm that mirrored its story of personal sacrifice against vast, unforgiving backdrops. His cinematography ensured that 3:10 to Yuma wasn't just gripping in its dialogue and action, it was also a film that looked timeless, with images as memorable as its characters. 3:10 to Yuma proved that a Western could still captivate modern audiences with its mix of powerful performances, rich symbolism, and gripping production. From the risks taken behind the camera to the chemistry between Russell Crowe and Christian Bale, the film balanced tradition with reinvention in a way few remakes manage. Every detail, from Marco Beltrami's unusual score to the carefully crafted sets, helped elevate the story beyond its dusty frontier. It wasn't just about gunfights and train rides, but about honor, sacrifice, and the complex bond between two men on opposite sides of the law. These secrets reveal why the film endures as more than a remake. It's a testament to how timeless stories can still thrive in Hollywood. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden film histories. Which of these secrets about 3:10 to Yuma surprised you the most?